Welcome to this special edition of the New Stack Makers on the Road. We're here in KubeCon North America in
Detroit Rock City!
Discussions from the show floor with technologists giving you their expertise and insights to help you with your everyday work. Chronosphere is the only observability platform that puts you back in control by taming rampant data growth and cloud-native complexity, delivering increased business confidence. Engineering organizations trust Chronosphere to help them operate scalable, highly available, and resilient applications.
Hello, and welcome back to another on-the-road edition of the New Stack Makers podcast. I'm your host, Heather Joslyn, features editor of the New Stack, and we're here at KubeCon plus Cloud Native Con North America here in Detroit, the Motor City. And we're talking about what lies beyond open source software. Everyone uses open source software, but what should you consider, if you're thinking of building something in-house, or you're thinking about purchasing something from a vendor, in terms of the issues around open source software and especially around observability, which can be especially challenging in a distributed cloud environment or multi-cloud environment. We're joined here by Rob Skillington, co-founder and chief technology officer at Chronosphere. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Chronosphere?
Yeah, so Chronosphere is a product, a company born out of a new set of operating environments and procedures that we find ourselves in today. Mm-hmm. The shift to cloud native is something that myself and my co-founder felt all too real. Going from slower, less ephemeral environments into this fast-paced world of Kubernetes, containers, also operating and deploying services yourself in a DevOps model, and Chronosphere is really a product born out of that set of problems that kind of intersect, which for engineers makes life pretty tough without the right tools.
And it's a pretty new company as well. It's like 2019?
That's right. Yes, just 3 years ago. One whole pandemic. Yep.
Oh, well, yeah. It seems like just yesterday. That's it. And 100 years ago at the same time. So I just want to also mention we thank Chronosphere for being our sponsors for today's episode of Makers. So let's get to talking about now. Chronosphere it's an observability platform. How would you define observability?
So the way that I define observability is essentially the practice of operating, deploying, and developing software. And in my mind, my granddad was a civil engineer, mm-hmm. and over 100 years, the processes and the know-how to actually build these structures reliably, mm-hmm. in a way that serves everyone that coexists in these fantastic buildings and bridges and roads and whatnot. A lot of those processes matured to a point where they could reliably build these things. And I mm-hmm. think about observability as that same maturity of engineering practice when it comes to building software that actually is useful in the world. It is this process that helps you actually achieve the deployment and operation of these large-scale systems that we use every day.
So you can see what's going on at every stage.
You can see what's happening. You can set up monitoring so that some of our customers have tens of thousands of alerts. Mm-hmm. So even the most minute problem bubbles up and is aware to a human before it fails spectacularly. Yeah. So it's really the underpinnings and the foundation of building something that runs reliably. When
you're deploying into a multi-cloud environment or a hybrid environment of some kind, it's distributed, it's all over, it's everywhere. What kind of challenges does that bring up in terms of, especially with open source software?
The challenges of modern day software development, like deploying into multiple cloud environments, having your application run and be portable is a real challenge. And back in the day, you would have a fewer set of larger servers that you could kind of treat like pets. Mm-hmm. And these days, it's unfortunately you're not able to do that. There's a lot of upsides to making it more compartmentalized, portable, mm-hmm. able to run everywhere. but it's a lot more challenging, and you have to really prepare this software for a whole set of runtime environments. And so the challenges around that is really about making it consistent, well understood, and robust. And that is something that obviously observability plays a big part of that.
I want to ask you a little bit about Prometheus. I mean, that's an open source monitoring tool that a lot of places use. What are some of the challenges, especially as an organization scales, that you see with that?
Yeah, so Prometheus is obviously a fantastic tool that really is married with Kubernetes. It's the second most mature project, only behind Kubernetes in the Cloud Native Foundation. It's that way for a reason. When I mention how observability is just absolutely crucial to kind of operate, Kubernetes provides the platform on which to operate your application. Prometheus is the partner to that, to actually be able to see it, monitor it, and correct things when obviously inevitably software goes wrong. The challenges with Prometheus is it's a primitive, and it's a very strong primitive, and it has matured obviously during its lifetime. But it really is a core building block, and you need a lot more than just a magnifying glass to do this very difficult task of deploying into Kubernetes and cloud native environments. Like, you need a whole tool set and toolbox.
Yeah.
It's not just a magnifying glass that you need.
I wanted to ask you about PromLens, the project which you donated to Prometheus.
Yes.
Can you tell us about what it does, and also the journey to the discussions you had with Julius Vols at Prometheus about how that donation came about?
Yeah, I mean, Julius, is really, as the co-founder of Prometheus, is really passionate about, and likewise as a contributor to OpenMetrics myself, which is part of the Prometheus ecosystem, and it is part of it's kind of formalizing of the Prometheus text exposition. There's this real yearning for essentially a standard that can be built upon by everyone in the industry when it comes to these core primitives, essentially. And Prometheus is one of those primitives, and we want to continue to solidify that as a primitive that stands the test of time. We can't build a self-driving car if we're always building a different car every 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And so PromLens it's almost like a IDE or development environment for building queries that run against Prometheus. And so, when you think about like some of our customers have tens of thousands of these alerts defined in PromQL, which is the query language for Prometheus. Having a tool like an integrated development environment where you can really understand these complex queries and iterate faster on setting these up and getting back to your day job is incredibly important. And so PromLens is a tool and a query builder and a developer environment that sets us up for Prometheus to continue to just be a, like you've held it for 5 years, tool that we hope will continue to solidify the penetration of the standard and bring more people to a world where everyone has transferable skills, they can work together, and PromLens really is such a powerful tool in a complex ecosystem that exists that should make it much more usable and accessible to everyone.
So it helps to sort through all these alerts?
It really helps to look at a query and an alert, and obviously the core part of an alert is kind of defining what data is being accessed to monitor. It really helps you pull out that underlying manipulation of the metrics data to give you something meaningful to a human. And a lot of the time at these companies, only a small subset of power users really understand how to craft these they're really only 5 lines of text. These queries, they're not that long, but they can get complicated very quickly. And so when you have thousands of dashboards, thousands of alerts, all that have these queries that kind of are built in this text format, PromQL, to access that metric data. You don't want just 1 or 5% of your company to understand how to author these.
Yeah.
You want everyone to be able to author these. And so PromLens really, it breaks it down in a visual format to understand how the different parts of the query relate to each other, and then allows you to edit it through a user interface instead of having to like write the text query language yourself.
Yeah.
So basically, it's kind of like a what you see is what you get editor for WYSIWYG editor for Prometheus queries. WordPress, is successful for a reason. Like the ecosystem around it is very strong, and PromLens is yet another addition that will just make the function of being a software engineer and performing the practice of observability much easier for many more people. And this is why it needs to exist in open source, because it's a great addition to obviously to put on top of an observability product, but it's also just a standard that you want to exist so everyone can level up and be at the same playing field and speaking the same language, which is Prometheus, PromQL, and the cloud-native ecosystem.
What's the difference between legacy APM and observability?
That's a great question. I mean, to some people, it's the same thing under a different roof or umbrella. But, to me, it's actually delivering the promise of APM in a new world. One of the sessions that I do with new employees at our company, Chronosphere, that we're an observability vendor, and a lot of the time we like to kind of paint the picture of the history of like, why are we here? What came before us? And the way I like to describe how APM came to exist is that all the primitives we had before APM were, very much that, like raw tools that, maybe as a 5-year, 10-year engineer, you may finally know how to work together with all of them.
Yeah.
APM brought a lot of those under one experience of practicing observability. So, it had an opinionated view and kind of gave you a crisp kind of product experience around kind of visualizing all this data and understanding at a contextual level that mattered to you as an application developer, how your product was performing, what the performance was like. And for instance, like with MySQL, it would tell you like these are the slow queries. It knew enough about the thing you were monitoring to give you real insights that didn't require you to spend hours looking at the raw tools that you used before. And so, cloud native observability and what comes after that is bringing that vision in a way it's actually more generic again. So we started out with these really generic tools before APM that were really hard to use.
Yeah.
APM made them opinionated and gave you like specific views into that set of data problems and whatnot. And then, observability and cloud native observability and all the tools in this ecosystem is about giving you that kind of like rich cross-cutting experience of being able to view and debug things from one place, but not specific to an individual runtime environment. Like, we don't build tools to monitor just MySQL anymore.
No.
We build one experience that can monitor everything, and then we plug that data into that one tool.
Yeah.
But it's, you're not learning how to use Microsoft Word and Microsoft Access and Microsoft, all the different tools under the Office suite. You're just learning one tool that can provide all the authorship and sets of tools under one roof.
So to bring it back to the electric car analogy, you're just working on one electric car. You don't have to learn all these other electric.
Exactly. It's under one control plane. It's not, you don't have the knobs all spread out through the car.
Good point. I guess that's all for now, but thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me again.
Yeah,
it's been great to catch up, and great to see people here under one roof again. And
it's been a good conference for that. Seeing people seem to be in a good mood here.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you for Chronosphere for sponsoring us today. And this has been another episode of the New Stack Makers. I'm Heather Joslyn, and we'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.